So in the non-physical, how do we know if we've made it into a similar three-dimensional reality like ours, or if we were just using visual metaphors to make sense of the data that we're receiving?
You're always just using visual metaphors to make sense of the information that you're receiving, and that's true in any reality. So that's what you're doing in this reality as well. You're using metaphors to make sense of the info that you're receiving. Your consciousness. As consciousness, you're getting the data stream. You are using metaphors that are based upon your experience here to interpret that data in terms of here. The question is, and really I think what you're asking is, what's the source of the data? Does it come from, how do you know whether it's coming from outside of you or inside of you? You know, is it external data? Is it external, is something that's coming outside, or is it just your imagination? Your imagination will say is inside of you. Are you just making it up, or is it data from the outside? Well, there's two answers to that. One is you can tell the difference through experience and patience, followed eventually by assessment. In other words, you know that data is coming from outside of you when it's not information that's in your mind. It's not part of your database. How do you know that immediately? Well, one, you have to really know yourself very well. But with experience and with patience, you can tell whether the information you're getting is stuff that you just, it's not in there. If you're in a past life situation where you're looking at what you've done before, and somebody says, oh, you were named Joe Schmo and you did this and that and such other, and you were in this outfit that did these kinds of things, and you go look that up in some history book, and you find that particular organization, and you find that Joe Schmo was there, and that was not a name that you had ever heard, nor had you ever heard of that organization. You see, now that's not, that didn't come from you. That's information that came from outside of you, because it just wasn't there. It wasn't anything you ever considered, thought about, were told, or knew about. So in that case, through experience and patience, followed by assessment. But how do you get to that point? One, I would say, for those who are in that jam where they say, well, I had this really strange out-of-body, but I don't know whether I just made it up or not. Don't try to judge it too early. If you're talking with an individual that's non-physical, continue the conversation. Right after the first conversation, if you try to figure out was that real or were you making it up, you won't have enough information to make that assessment. Continue on with the conversation, and after interacting with this entity for 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 months, if you try to steer it to things that are evidential, then you'll know whether or not you're making it up. But you won't know immediately. You won't know even in the first months, because it takes a while to gather enough information, to gather enough experience with that entity to be able to assess whether it's your imagination or coming from outside of you. So that's kind of the practical answer. How do you do that? Secondly, consider this. If information is useful, it doesn't matter. Okay? If you're having a conversation with an entity and you're getting information that helps you grow, that is informative to you, it helps you understand the larger reality. If it's useful, it doesn't matter where it comes from. Okay, think about Carlos Castaneda's series of books. Okay, now was Carlos Castaneda making that up, or did he actually have all those experiences as he wrote about them? It doesn't matter. If the information in those books was useful to you, if it helped you put together something that was important to you, an understanding that made sense to your own experience, then it was valuable. Whether he made that up or whether he was just writing down what happened to him doesn't really make any difference. If you get into the situation, well, if I knew that he actually did experience that, then I believe it. And if he didn't, then I don't. Well, now you're into this believe it or not stage. That's a childish stage, that you have to believe it or not believe it. It doesn't matter. Get rid of belief. Keep it in terms of open-minded skepticism. You're open-minded about it, and you're skeptical about it. The big question is it useful? Can you get something out of it? So this idea of was it real or was it not real? Was I talking to myself or whatever? that's mostly of interest to your ego. It's mostly your ego that wants to know that so you can decide whether you should believe it or not believe it. You're trapped in this need to believe, and that's a problem. So in the bigger picture, my first answer was kind of a practical answer, how to deal with it. But in the bigger picture, it doesn't matter except to your ego. If the information is useful, then use it. It doesn't matter where it comes from. Now, how do you know it's useful? Well, does it tell you something that helps you grow? Does it help you lower your introvert? Does it help you evolve the quality of your consciousness? If it doesn't, then you're probably wasting your time anyway. You know, if it's just chit-chat and it never takes you anyplace important, then it doesn't matter whether that's a real entity that you're just chit-chatting with and wasting your time with, or whether it's not. It's a waste of time. And if it's really useful, it doesn't matter whether that's some entity or whether that's yourself. It's really useful. Use it.